Football is beautiful, but it can get real dirty sometimes. There are some players who have dedicated their careers to mastering the dark arts, and those are the guys we want to look at in this video today. These are the 10 dirtiest players in football history. And of course, we'll start with the number one suspect, Sergio Ramos. Yes, he's a very solid defender, but everyone knows Ramos loves to play dirty. A little two-footed sliding tackle here, a little dislocation of the shoulder there, and Ramos begins to feel alive. In case you doubt just how dirty he is, listen to this: Sergio Ramos has received 28 red cards in his career. Now, that's a lot. To show you just how crazy that is, Paolo Maldini only received 3 red cards throughout his career, Carles Puyol saw 4. While Rio Ferdinand was sent off just once in his career. These are some of the greatest and hardest tackling defenders of all time, so you see? 28 red cards is actually insane for Ramos. But what if we told you Ramos is nowhere close to being the player with the most red cards in football history? There's a man who has received almost double the number of red cards Ramos has. Wow, crazy, right? Do you know who that man is? Go ahead and take a guess in the comments, we'll see if you're right later in this video. But for now, let's look at one of the dirtiest strikers in football, Luis Suarez. Suarez is really the master of the dark arts. This guy bit opponent on the pitch on 3 different occasions, and when it comes to diving and play acting to win a penalty, his delivery is Oscar deserving. Oh, and let's not forget the reason Ghanaians don't like him till date: his goal-saving handball in the World Cup quarter-final back in 2010. Yes, you could say he did what he had to do, but that definitely wasn't fair play. Suarez obviously doesn't care about playing fair, but honestly, he's much better than Diego Costa, that's for sure. The only thing Costa doesn't do is bite, but everything else Suarez does, this guy does, and even more. He'll play act, tackle, stamp on his opponent, kick, choke, yell, slap, anything you can think of. When Costa is pissed, just don't go close to him. It's no coincidence that Daily Express once named him the dirtiest player in the Premier League back in 2015. Costa has been sent off 12 times in his career. That's definitely a lot for a striker. But if you think Costa is dirty, then what would you say about Mario Balotelli? We're talking about a guy that Jose Mourinho called unmanageable and Roberto Mancini often called crazy.
I could write 200 pages of my 2 years in interview with Mario.
In fact, Mancini once said if they were together 10 years earlier, he would give Balotelli a punch in the head every day. The Italian striker is known for having a short fuse. On the pitch, he would always get into fights, and off the pitch, the story was the same. This was a guy who threw darts at a youth team player during training as a prank. Nah, Super Mario was a dirty player. You think Costa's 12 career red cards are a lot for a striker? Balotelli has got 14. And since we're talking about former Premier League players, let's just quickly throw Roy Keane in there. This guy had 11 red cards in his career, but that doesn't even tell the full story. He was once slapped with a £150,000 fine and a 3-game suspension by his own coach for elbowing an opponent. This was a guy who ended Alfie Holland's career with a horrible tackle and went ahead to brag about it in his book. Talking about the infamous tackle which earned him an initial 3-match ban and a £5,000 fine, Keane said, "I'd waited long enough. I fucking hit him hard." For admitting this, the FA banned him for an additional 5 games and fined him an extra £150,000. But Keane still didn't apologize. In fact, he maintained that he had no regrets about the tackle. Nah, it really doesn't get dirtier than this. Or does it? Do you know this guy named Joey Barton? If you know him, then you'd know it actually does get a lot dirtier than Roy Keane. Oh, where to even start from with Barton? This guy was so dirty that tackles and tricks seem trivial when talking about him. We're talking about a guy who beat up his own teammate, Ousmane Dabo, in training while he was at Man City. Barton beat Dabo so bad that he became unconscious and had to be rushed to hospital. For that, he was arrested and charged with assault, to which he pleaded guilty. He was given a 4-month suspended sentence and was ordered to do 200 hours of community service. Throughout his career, Barton was charged with violent conduct on 3 different occasions by the FA. Once for beating up Dabo, another time for punching Pedersen in the stomach, and another time for attacking 3 different players in 2012. This guy was as dirty as they come. Barton was so violent that he spent 74 days in jail in 2008 after CCTV footage showed him punching a man 20 times until he lost consciousness, and breaking some of the teeth of a teenager. Nah, this guy was just such a monster. Anyway, remember we said that there's a guy who received close to twice the number of red cards Ramos has received. Did you guess Gerardo Bedoya? If you did, then you're very correct. With 46 sending-offs in his 20-year career, this guy holds the record for most red cards received in football history. And honestly, do we even need to say anything more? If you average more than 2 red cards in every year of your professional career, then there's absolutely nothing fair about your game. It's no surprise his nickname is the Beast. Anyway, we just couldn't wrap up this video without talking about Ramos' partner in crime for many years, Pepe. This guy is a solid defender, but boy does he play dirty. He tackles hard, bullies opponents, trash talks them, and will even kick you while you're down. Ask Francisco Cascaro. You want to know how dirty Pepe is? This guy once hid a bullet in his sock during a live match. Another really dirty centre-back is a man called Kevin Muscat. You may not know him, but your favorite players do, and they think he's a piece of shit. Ashley Young said Muscat threatened to break his legs if he went past him ahead of his first ever professional match as a teenager. In that game, Muscat ended up getting sent off for stamping on Young's teammate. 3 months after this incident, he elbowed Adam Hughes and got suspended for it. The day he came back from that suspension, he made a horrible tackle on Adrian Zura, which earned him an 8-game suspension. Nah, Muscat was just too dirty. There's a reason Ian Wright called him a lowlife and a nobody, and Martin Granger called him the most hated man in football. Anyway, we just couldn't wrap up this video without mentioning Gennaro Gattuso. Everybody who watched the Italian play knows he was one dirty, hard-tackling, aggressive midfielder who feared nobody. This is a guy who slapped Zlatan in the face. That alone should tell you how fearless Gattuso was. And who remembers the Champions League incident involving him and Joe Jordan, one of Spurs' coaches in 2011? Gattuso grabbed Jordan by the throat and pushed him on the sidelines, and after the game, he headbutted the coach. Gattuso, man. So dirty, so fearless. Are there more dirty players you know? Drop names in the comments.